Village Board of Monday, August 4th, 2025 to order. It is 6 p.m. We will begin with roll call. Trustee Booker. Here. Trustee Woods. Here. Trustee Owens. Here. Trustee Thompson. Here. Trustee Greaves. Here. Trustee Johnson. Here. President Montgomery. Here. We'd like to invite the audience to join us as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do we have any persons desiring to be heard?
We do, President. The first one is Deborah Woods, 3435 West Pelican Lane.
Good evening. Please state your name and address, and you have about 3 minutes.
I'm Deborah Woods, 3435 West Pelican Lane. I just have a couple of questions on some projects that have been talked about and where they're going and what's happening with them. And one of them was the care facility on Bradley. Is that still gonna happen?
You're talking about, I believe you're talking one on 47, is that 4740 Bradley?
Right. Next to the Kelly Tires place?
Yep, it is. So they, had some issues with the rising cost of constructions. They had to bid out that project a few times. They have notified us in about the last month or so that the financing for the project they're good for. So they're wrapping some things up, and are going to get us some more information by the end of this summer. So it's still on track. It's just delayed because of the rising cost of construction.
The other thing was the store and the restaurant, was it the Fireside that's gonna go in there on
Blaze.
Yeah, Blaze, is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still gonna happen?
Last time we heard from them was about 2 months ago. They were working with an architect on the design. So they're working on the design of Blaze.
Okay, and then the other thing is, have we heard about the signal light here on the corner? Is that gonna be approved or?
Yeah, so that's Sagewind who's working on that. Right now, it's with the state on the approval of that. So they're waiting on state approval. They notified us that they would probably get that project out to bid, just wait till the end of the year. Anytime, we actually learned this with 10 Mile Park. If you bid out a project now, everyone has their projects lined up for the year. So you're not going to get much interest in the bids. So they would rather wait till the end of the year in the winter to get bids for next year. So that would and that will be a topic that will come to a future board meeting with the traffic light, because we have some financial investment or costs that we'll have to put into that light as well. So that's not going to be any construction that we'll see until probably the spring of next year.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
John Shelton, 8469 North 46th Street.
Oh, please state your name and address. I know she said it, but.
John Shelton, 8469 North 46th Street. I come here as the president of Meadowside Homeowners Association. We got information about the Titonia improvement by railroad tracks. We talked about the sidewalk being there as part of that improvement. And looking at the map that came with the email that I saw, it has a dotted line for the sidewalk from the road that goes directly onto a Meadowside path that's part of the homeowners association path. And we have images of that path, which is asphalt. And we're struggling even getting the funding to improve that ourselves. And it just looks like that seems like a bad idea to come through the Meadowside asphalt path instead of going a separate route and going directly to the crosswalk for Dean Road. And I have a Google map here if you want me to pass it around. But we have problems. One, we do not snow blow or take care of plow that path because our insurance would have to cover the liability if someone slips on that path. And currently, people do use the path, but they're walking through the snow and we're not, according to our insurance, supposed to make it easy to travel on that path. I don't know if you can show this image. I can pass it around, but you can even see the rabbit path that is going to our path of people that just walk that way. And they're going like with the dotted line directly to our path. And they should probably go along the creek path and go to the Dean Road crosswalk. Is how it probably should be relevant. But from our perspective, I would say that we would have a problem having a public sidewalk attached to our path.
So you want to see about getting that information from?
Yeah, have you talked with, like Nate Piotrowski or Matthew Mader on that issue at all?
No. We
Okay,
just got this image of the path that we've heard that they're gonna do a sidewalk all the way along. I told them.
yeah, let me, post meeting later this week, let me set up a meeting for us to have that discussion. Cause that's something that we can work on behind the scenes, and just to let the board know, we'll make sure in one of the department updates that we'll keep you informed on the progress of that.
Thank you. And perhaps you might even have to come through a little bit of the homeowners associations parcel to get there, which that would be fine as long as it's a public cement path from our perspective.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lastly, Libby Greaves, 4588 West Donna Drive.
Hi, I'm Libby Greaves, 4588 West Donna Drive. I'm just kind of piggybacking on John's comments. If you can understand how we all like the idea of Round Deer becoming a little bit more pedestrian and accommodating that with sidewalks on major streets. We're quite excited about the idea of a sidewalk along Teutonia. We love the way for people to be able to access the interurban trail without having to like skirt traffic on the grass to get there and whatever. So we're excited about all of that. We don't object to the idea of right of ways and public sidewalks being across Meadowside common areas. What's really kind of a confusing thing would be, as wonderful as it would be to have public sidewalks, to have a nice new public sidewalk and abruptly at a really janky, broken up asphalt, uneven path to then make a sharp turn down, you know, of maybe 8 feet down to then the proper crosswalk to get across to the nice new or relatively new sidewalk that's along Dean Road would be really weird. And it seems like with increased traffic that we can expect as people start to realize and enjoy the nice paved sidewalks that can link up to the old village from Dean, from Bradley, from wherever, that will be putting a lot of traffic on a broken asphalt path, interrupting the nice progress.
Thank you. I thank you for everything. I will follow.
Yeah,
All right. Anyone else?
President.
All right, thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay. The next item on our agenda is elected officials and staff reports. They are in your package. Any questions? Any of the reports? If not, we will move forward to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda is consideration of the minutes from the July 21st meeting. Any questions or corrections? If not, can we entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved by trustee Booker and seconded by trustee Owens to approve the consent agenda, the minutes of July 21st meeting. All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item in our packet is consider approval of a special events application for Cream City Sports. Anyone here for Cream City?
On Zoom.
Oh.
Virtually.
Virtually, it's Leisha.
Okay. So,
I'm also here. Anthony Birch is also in on the meeting.
okay. So the application is in our packet. This is for August 31st, it's a Sunday. Beginning at 11 and completing at 10. Anticipated attendance 300. This is outdoors or both, in and out. How many do you want?
Yeah, Karen, I can speak briefly, and then I think I would recommend for Alicia and Anthony just to give a summary on the event. Because we've had some back and forth and appreciate both Alicia and Anthony for their help and working with some of the, nearby businesses. They selected a Sunday, so there would be as least disruption for the other businesses as possible. But part of our special events application, the first time a special events comes around, requires board approval. And then any year after that, if it's a renewal and it's pretty much the same, the village manager would approve. So if you approve this one, if they decide to do it annually, I would approve it moving forward unless there's a change, and then we would bring it back. And then for Leisha and Anthony, the only other thing I wanted to mention is talking a little bit more with our police chief, in that the noise ordinance does go till 10 o'clock. So because there's going to be a little takedown in that, we would recommend the event to actually finish at 9, so that it would provide an hour of, getting everything off the street and that before the noise ordinance begins. But other than that, staff did not have any other issues with the application and would recommend for approval.
So Anthony or Alicia, did you want to say anything?
Just to respond to Tyler, absolutely understood. The 11 a.m. is really for setup. So from 11 a.m. through 1 p.m., we would be doing setup, and then we would look to start the event at 1 p.m. And then we would end the event at 9 p.m. and have like an hour for cleanup and breakdown.
That's perfect.
Okay.
And then they also included a site plan. So if you need to look at how everything would be arranged, they did a pretty good job showing that. And the packet also shows, or the application shows, the different vendors they would use as well.
Is the beer garden open on Sundays?
It is open on Sundays. But we would let them know that there would be there's a slight disruption in the parking and people to access it, but we would work with them and give them enough notice so they can, let any customers that they have know accordingly where to go.
Okay. Trustee Thompson.
Are any local vendors going to be participating in the event?
We have some local that is within 5 miles from us, but not necessarily Brown Deer. I believe it's considered Milwaukee.
Other question, trustee Owens.
Just had a question about parking. You said it's gonna be approximately 300 people there. So if you got, let's just say, 150 cars or 200 cars, is there enough parking in that area?
What I understood, and Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be 300 throughout the 8 or 9 hours. Is that what your estimate is based off of?
Absolutely. We do not anticipate 300 at one given time. Similar to bar hours on a Saturday or Sunday, we might have 300 total, but they come at differing times.
From a staff perspective, we would anticipate it kind of similar to what we've been seeing with the Friday food trucks at the beer garden. And there's enough street parking with it. And if anybody wanted to park in the public lot next to the library, they would also have that opportunity. So there'd be enough parking to support the event.
Trustee Johnson.
My question is more so related to security. You will have security on site, but how will you handle security?
We are looking to partner with the police department. The police department will send an officer, and then we'll also have our private security on hand.
And so what the village will do is during, once the event starts, we'll start having an officer stop by, on a routine basis and everything looks okay, then we'll be fine. But just to check in and make sure everything's okay. And Alicia and Anthony both know that that's part of the fee is whatever the, any amount of time that an officer needs to be there, they would pay for that time spent. So that's built into the application fee. But, we feel based on if it's around 300 throughout those hours, we don't anticipate many issues, but we will be checking in just to start, just to make sure everything's okay.
Other questions?
So there's a list of vendors listed in this application. Is this the entire list, or is this just a sample of the vendors that you anticipated going to participate?
As of right now, it is the entire list. If there were to be one added, we would definitely reach out to Tyler immediately, but it's, the way I see it, that's the entire list as of now.
Other questions? If not, we do have a recommendation. Oh, trustee Johnson.
I move that we approve the special events application for Craig City Sports Park for the event being held on Sunday, August 31st, 2025.
Is there a second? It's been moved by trustee Thompson and seconded by trustee Greaves to approve the special events application for Queen City Sports Park for the event being held on Sunday, August 31st, 2025. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Paper no rain.
Fingers.
Before you go, who's the entertainment that's going to be there?
You want to do?
No.
You're welcome to. We have a couple of RDJs, and then we'll have an artist coming from Illinois and then a local artist within Milwaukee. We're looking for Cigarette Break if it could work within their schedule.
Okay. Thanks.
There you go. Item B, moving on. Consider resolution number 25-09, a resolution approving 2026-2030 capital improvement plan for the village around here. All right.
Thank you, President Montgomery. So the capital improvement plan is always one of many aspects of our budgetary process throughout the year. During the last board meeting, several departments were in attendance to answer any questions regarding their submissions. Nothing for 2026 changed in the plan, but the one update I provided to the board, or I think it was mentioned at the last meeting, we no longer have the grant funding for the police radios. So we had to include those. It's such a large amount of roughly around, $270,000 for the police radios. So we did, or are proposing to do it over 2 years, in 27 and 28. So there were a few larger items that had to be moved to 29 and 30, mostly related to police. So you can see that update in the packet. And then the one thing, and I thank Trustee Greaves for catching, one of the $180,000 references was not removed from the plan. So just know with the adoption, we would just make that administrative correction to remove that. Because we were able to eliminate the item, but did not remove the dollar amount from the line. So that would no longer be part of the 2028 plan, but everything else is correct. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Trustee Reeves.
I'm looking at the debt service, so it says on the left, the existing debt service and combined. So I'm a little confused by that. Can you kind of explain, like, what I'm interested in knowing is what is our current debt obligation, and, how does this add to that, or how does this change it?
So what you need to know as a board is when it comes to debt, we borrow every 2 years. And when it comes to capital plan, we divide it up into 2 parts. I would say one is kind of like general fund and, the capital fund, and the other part is utilities. That would be water, sewer, stormwater. So every 2 years, we try to keep the combination of that as similar as possible, that we don't have big spikes. And typically when we take out debt, while we're adding debt, the debt that we borrowed for years prior, we always have every 2 years some debt come off too. So while some debt comes off, some others comes on. Well, more than a decade ago, obviously the cost of the US dollar is much different than it is today. But when it comes to our financial policies, always considers our debt compared to our total expenses, which always increases as well. So long story short, the real important thing that we want to focus on is from a ratio perspective. And we are well in compliance. I believe, talking with Brad, we have quite a few millions of dollars yet to our debt capacity that we have available. So we have a pretty good cushion yet. But yeah, that's what you want to do is when you look at these spreadsheets, 26 and 27, we would borrow at the same time. So if you add those, the column GO debt, you add those 2 columns, just on the capital side, you're at about 2.8 or so. And then on the utility side, you're adding a few more $100,000. So we would be, I think it's like 3.5 or something like that $1 million over the 2 years. And that's pretty consistent with years past. Does that answer your question, Trustee Greaves?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, we need to adopt or approve the resolution for the 26 to 2030 capital improvement plan. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move we approve resolution number 24-09, a resolution approving the 2026-2030 capital improvement plan for Brownfield.
If you mean 25-0, then you got it.
I'm reading what it says, okay. Okay, so let's do that as a resolution approving the 2025-2030.
No,
No.
2026.
The resolution number is 25-1.
Right.
Is that what it said? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's try it again. I move we approve resolution 25-09, a resolution approving the 2026-2030 capital improvement plan for the village of Brown Deer.
That's right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by trustee Woods and seconded by trustee Thompson to approve resolution 2509. A resolution approving a 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan for the village of Brown Deer. This is a resolution, so we will do a roll call vote. Trustee Booker. Aye. Trustee Woods.
Aye.
Trustee Owens.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Breeze.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
President Montgomery. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. The next item is consider approval of a public art plan. And I believe Tyler has information.
Yep, thank you, President Montgomery. So this has been a project that has been in the works for some time. Something like this, a lot of municipalities would contract out for, a $20,000-$30,000 expense, and we took some time to do it internally. So I think, there was a bunch of staff that were involved in producing this document, and thank for staff's cooperation in putting this together. Carrie Hoy, I gave her the information. She made it all beautiful in a plan. So I definitely want to thank Carrie for her help in making that happen. Really, when we put this together, I think the main focus is this. We took data that was utilized from a community survey that was only on public art last year. And the information that came from that really took some time to research and develop some concepts or ideas that could potentially be done in Brown Deer. As we presented it to the Community Foundation about just over a month ago, one of the things we really told them was, just because they're ideas, that doesn't mean that we will do that. It's just talking about concepts that could be done in Brown Deer. But really what the plan does is identifies potential locations, identifies the committees and village officials and staff who would be involved in the process. It has some policies that would talk about how we would select art, how we would go about recruiting for artists and donations and things like that. Really, the main page is, we realize that people are not going to read a 50-page document. So to try to get it really concise and to the point, the Brown Deer Art Action Plan is really what I would recommend a lot of people to focus on in your doc or packet. That would be page 137. In the actual plan itself, it's page 51. And that kind of identifies over the next 5 years what activities would be involved, who would be the lead, and what year that would occur. And so this will be something that we'll have staff, continually look at. I can tell you already a few residents have reached out, the excitement with the plan and want to be involved. So that's really exciting. The Community Foundation is really excited about the plan, and their role will be as the fiduciary agent to try to fundraise and get some donations to come in to support the art. A lot of the art will be dictated on the donations coming in, just because we're not going to set aside any village tax dollars initially to support the program. That's where we'll be dependent on donations coming in. So if approved tonight, our next step will be drafting a press release that will go out to the media and asking for the community's support or the region's support to see if artists or donors are interested in starting any of these projects in Brown Deer. And that's, an effort that we'll be doing ongoing. But that will be an effort that we'll begin to do, and we'll work on some contacts to get it going. So, so any questions on the plan, I'll be happy to answer.
Trustee Greaves?
Yeah, so, just one minor correction on page 14, the map, there's two item 6. So there's a box which is Village Park, but then it also says underused buildings along Oak Leaf Trail.
Okay, yeah, so that can be an administrative correction that we can make, just to clarify that there's not 2 6s.
And then, I was curious about what those underutilized buildings are. I think I kind of know across from there's some big blank spaces along there, but.
Yeah, some are storage or just office buildings that have an empty facade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so who would make the decision about like artistic merit and once we do the request and then we get some submissions, would it be the village board or you as the manager? Who makes the final decision?
Yeah, so let's just real quickly, we'll go through the process. So let's say we have a donor come in saying that they want to provide, you know, a significant donation to support art. We would have them make the donation to the community foundation. We would put out an RFP asking for artists to submit qualifications and a concept that would match what we're looking for. And right, we would have a committee that would review the proposals and the qualifications that come in. We would have, you know, probably, I would anticipate, depending on what the submission is, we would have 2 or 3 village staff who would sit in on that. You know, someone from Public Works, you know, since it becomes village property, more than likely, if it's on village land, we'll have to be responsible for the maintenance. And then if it's in a park and open space, someone from Parks and Rec would be part of that. Otherwise, Nate from Community Development would sit on that. So those are some of the people from Village that would be a part of that. Of course, any board members, if you want to be involved with that, you'd be more than welcome. We would have a representative from the Community Foundation who would sit on the panel. And then we would give the donor the opportunity that if they want to be part of the selection committee, that they would. I already had a resident who reached out that's passionate about public art saying that they would love to sit on a committee like that to select art as well. So that's where we could tag 1 or 2 residents that if they want to be a part of it. So that would be who I would anticipate the selection committee to consist of. But I should also say at the end, once someone's selected, it'll go to the village board for approval because we'll have some kind of service agreement with them to do the art. So all of you would be part of that process.
Trustee Johnson?
I was just thinking about for private property, is this a guide for them to use when they start thinking about putting sculptures or anything on their own private property?
Yeah, this is definitely a guide for them because we would want art that is, you know, consistently on brand and theme for Brown Deer. So I would say yes. They would have a slightly different process in the sense of it's their own land. So it's not like we're going to have a service agreement that will, you know, go to the village, but there might be a donor who would want to maybe provide some help for them. But if they're going to use their own dollars to do art, they have a little bit more freedom as far as what they want to do. But that's where if they're willing to work with us so that we can be part of the process to make sure everything is consistent, you know, that would be good. Some communities, or if they have like a business improvement district or something, they would have some grant dollars to assist. That's where we would be able to have a lot more say on a private property if they were applying for the grant dollars. We just don't have a program like that. So that's where, you know, if someone wanted to do something on their facade or something like that, the only thing, like, we would just make sure it complies with the code, and stuff like that, like on our, like, counted as like a sign. But other than that, like, we just would have a little bit more limited role in that scenario.
Is that something that the foundation can think about at some point in time, adding an arm that could support sort of public art on private property if the owner come up with a significant amount of their dollars?
Like, are you talking about a grant program to help financially support? I think absolutely. You know, that's where I would hope that we would get some traction. And if we get to that point, that's great to hear. And yeah, that would be great for us as a municipality, because then we would have a little bit more say in the matter. But yeah, it'll take a little while, and positive momentum to get to that point. You're welcome.
Other questions? Did you have something?
Nope, sorry, just adjusting my glasses.
The only thing I would say is, this has come a long way from the initial conversation. Has it been a year, 2 years?
It's probably been just over a year, probably like a year and a half.
A lot of work has been done, and I know, trustee Johnson had spoke about public art. And I know at the foundation, so, kudos to staff, and, looking forward to this moving forward, being unique.
Mhm.
So with that, we do need a motion to approve the plan.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the village of Brownview public art plan.
Okay. It's been moved by, trustee Johnson, and seconded by trustee, Booker, to approve the public art plan. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. The next item is consider resolution 25-10, a resolution declaring the state of Wisconsin shall no longer approve any community living arrangement for Brown Deer without meeting certain village requirements.
Thank you, President Montgomery. So a brief story for the board. You know, I think over the last few years, every once in a while, we'll get a resident who inquires about an adult family home that is located in their neighborhood and just inquires about how it came to be. There is something in our village code that states if the formal name is the community living arrangement. So if a community living arrangement locates the Brown Deer, the property owner needs to get an occupancy certificate or permit be there. And part of that is because we want them to notify all properties within, I think it's 500 feet of the property itself, so they are aware that that is being located there. Well, I bet you only about 2 have actually done that, and we have much more than 2. We have the list in the memo of the different ones through the state that have been approved. So one of the issues we're seeing in the process right now is the state is going ahead and approving these community living arrangements, but they're not notifying the local municipalities. We have gone through some due diligence of our end to meet with DHS to learn about their process and express our dissatisfaction with that. There's a formal process that community members and other agencies can give feedback, and we've gone through that extent with them as well. And to date, we haven't heard any adjustment in the process, but I'm hoping that's something that they review. We've even engaged with our state legislators to work with DHS to make that improvement. So part of the journey as well in our discovery, there's also something that somewhat recently has been added, state statute that states if basically a local municipality doesn't have much or it can't have really restrictions on any approval of these community living arrangements unless the number of units exceeds either 25 or 1% of the community's population, whichever is greater. So for Brown Deer, with us being, right around the neighborhood of 13,000 people, we use easy math, that'd be about 130. So we are well above that with all those units. So because of that, now we can have restrictions and we can have a say. So in talking with our village attorney, they've agreed that we have the right that if we want, we can say no to none further. So the resolution in front of you, if adopted tonight, We will send to DHS to let them formally know that we will no longer be accepting any more community living arrangements. Unless the only caveat to that is if it somehow dipped below the 1%, then we would need to. But we wouldn't be accepting any more. Another action, if approved tonight, you'd be authorizing staff to draft a letter that would go out to all the property owners of the addresses in the memo who have not received an occupancy certificate. It would give them 90 days upon receipt of the letter to do that, to apply for one. If they did not do that, they would also not be able to operate. And we would go through the typical process if someone didn't have an occupancy permit of not having them have their establishment there any further. And then also if we get any, the third action would be if we hear any other further word of a community living arrangement, that it would just be denied altogether because we exceed the 1%. So those are the actions that would be completed by staff if approved tonight. And once again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Woods.
So you say we're over the 130 number now. We know how far over we are?
We added it. I don't know. I can't give you no exact number. I just know we're well above it, especially because the first group there, all those units are 5 and above, and some of those are like with, Jewish family housing and that. So when you add up all those units, just there alone, I mean, we're well over 100. I don't have the number in front of me tonight, but just know it's well past.
Okay, and you said we wouldn't be approving anything until we fall below 1%.
Correct.
Does this mean that it's just a blanket no, or they have to come talk to us and get approval before we, are we saying no to everybody, or are we saying, no, you've got to come talk to us and then we'll help decide whether or not we'll let you in?
We would always be happy to listen. I think for some of the larger establishments, because it might fall under a development agreement or something like that, we have more control and knowledge of how it operates. So I think those we might, as a village, I would recommend, you as a board set the policy, but we would recommend that, those are some things that we could certainly talk more about. The issues we've been running into and where we've been getting a lot of calls from residents are those 3 to 4 unit adult family homes. That right now, it's a lot are operating, we didn't even know about it. So those are the ones that we want to try to get more control about. So our communication would be DHS that if someone wants to apply, if they want to talk with village staff, we want them to talk with us. And if we feel like it's something that the board would support, we would probably have it as a future agenda item to allow you to engage in that. But if we don't think the board would be supportive, we would tell them no.
Other questions? Trustee Johnson and Trustee Holmes.
Yeah, I was just curious, do you have a date that they came online with some of these sites? Or are these within the last year, 2 years, 5 years?
DHS has not provided us anything. I'm sure if we did like an open records request or something, we could get the dates. But there's nothing, because they didn't file an occupancy certificate. Some of the larger ones we know because there's like a development agreement or something associated with them, but a lot of the 3 to 4 units, we would have no idea unless we did that open records request.
Trustee Holmes.
I'm just gonna answer the question about, when they apply, how long is that certificate good for? That's something that they have to renew?
Yeah, they would and we would inform them of like the annual process to renew their occupancy certificate. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
you're talking about with the village or with the state?
Oh, yeah, with the state, I do not know the process with the state. Yeah. But I'm sure there's a renewal process, as I would be shocked if the state would just grant, because I know like to be an establishment or community living arrangement, there's certain like checklists that they need to do. So, and I think sometimes the state might come in to audit to make sure. So I'm sure there's a renewal process there too. I just don't know that on the top of my head. Yeah.
Trustee Johnson.
So there's some fees associated with operating within the village. You know that offhand those fees are?
I mean, do you remember what that is, Karen?
I believe it's 70 or 90.
Yeah, I was gonna say right around 100.
Yeah.
So that gives you a ballpark. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty nominal fee, but I mean, it's still something.
But it's annual, right?
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So we have all these, self-family homes that are popping up, but you don't know that this is happening. And that's why there's.
Right, yeah, because they don't, DHS does not tell, and that's part of our feedback. Is because there's a lot of municipalities that do require that, and DHS doesn't follow up with the local municipality to see if they've gotten their local occupancy certificate.
So what's gonna stop them from continuing to do it?
Well, this is all public online. So what we will do is quarterly, we will go on their website to see if they've admitted any without our approval. And if they have, we'll go to them and say, I'm sorry, you can't, you can't be open because you didn't get your local occupancy certificate. And then we'll see, in addition, the staff, did this, we even messaged and let DHS know. So we're sorry that they approved you, but because you're not approved at the local level and you can't be open.
I have a question. If not, this is a resolution, so we do need a motion.
I make a motion. I move approval of resolution 25-10, a resolution declaring the state of Wisconsin shall no longer approve any community living rates for ground here without meeting certain village requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then moved by trustee Thompson and second by trustee Greaves to approve resolution 25-10, declaring that the state of Wisconsin Department of Health Services shall no longer approve any community living arrangement for ground here without meeting certain village requirements. This is a resolution. We do need a roll call vote. Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Greaves.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
Trustee Owens.
Aye.
Trustee Woods.
Aye.
Trustee Booker.
Aye.
President Montgomery. Resolution 25-10 has been adopted. Thank you. The next item is discuss strategic planning for village manager's office, village clerk's office, finance, human resources and communication. Did this come out of your annual evaluation?
These are
Strategic planning.
the strategic
Right.
discussions we've been doing with all departments. So it's the village hall theme night,
Hall
so
night.
we're just gonna keep it going.
That's just you two.
Well, Derek too, but yeah, this is basically because Nate will do his own report. So Nate is not included in this. We figure we can do a whole nother night on economic development, and that's where we'll do a lot of economic development updates with all
So
of
you're
you.
covering finance and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. So for these strategic discussions, I think what's been working well is because, I know, as a board, you're able to read through all this. So I won't read through the 24 activities or the 25 initiatives and goals, but at the end, if you have any questions on that too, I'm happy to answer. But I want to focus on the last page of your packet in the document, which is that 3 to 5 year long-term strategic plan vision. And, obviously we're just trying to highlight the bigger things, but if there's anything Village Hall related that you want to inquire about for a long-term vision, that just know that's the point of this discussion. We can definitely do that. But real quick, and Carrie is our marketing communications coordinator as part of that as well here at Village Hall. So number one is really talking about continuing Brown Deer as a place to play in the North Shore. And, can include promoting certain things like the farmers market, the parks and recreation events. We've been doing some new especially online social media campaigning that we feel like has been working out pretty well. So we'll continue to promote things like that. Number two, I'll go through all these, and then if you have any questions, comments at the end, feel free. Number two, the newly adopted public art plan, we'll oversee the implementation of that. I put in the plan that the village manager is the sole person responsible for the plan. So I'll make sure to be the champion of that. And we'll collaborate with the Community Foundation on any fundraising and sponsorships for the public art. The Brown Deer Historical Society, which, by the way, we need about 2 more board members. So that's where I could use the board's help. If you have a neighbor that you feel like would be, or anybody you know in the community that would be good for this, we need 2 more people. And then we can bring that to the board for appointment and get the board going.
Somebody with finance, treasurer.
Yeah, we need a treasurer. So if you know someone with an accounting or financial background, that would be great. But so we're super close. We've done a lot of research. We've got some people engaged. We know the process to reactivate it. We're just down to 2 people, and then we can make it happen. So we're close on that. I'll be involved with it, and very similar with the Community Foundation, where I'll always be an active role in it, but I'll be attending all the meetings initially to help them get underway until they feel good and operating without me being there for every meeting. So assisting as a good community partner. We've talked about for HR, trying to get a new online onboarding program for employees. We have like a checklist that supervisors can work with an employee for their first 30 or so days. But we would love to have an online system that we can work with them on even before their first day, which would have like a lot of the HR documents, and if they want to provide their I was going to say W-9, but that's wrong. Their I-9 and their W-2 in advance, that they can do that. So that's something that we've talked about. Also searching for new ways to recruit employees. The one thing that municipalities and public agencies are guilty of is they use a lot of the same channels. And I think we need to think of some new creative ways to recruit and reach out to residents. One thing that I think we're really proud of that's worked well is we've used local channels to recruit Brown Deer residents. And we've, I think out of all the people that we've hired for the village in the last 3 years, I would say close to 50% of the people we've hired have been Brown Deer residents, which is really neat. So that's something that we want to continue trying to do. But also goes to our volunteers, for our volunteer committees and our poll workers. So we'll continue looking at that. And if any of you have been on the Finance and Personnel Committee, we've talked about reviewing compensation and benefits, making sure that when it comes to compensation, that we have a more systematic way of maybe it's an overall step system or something like that. That's something that we're researching. But especially on the benefit side, it's so hard to attract and retain employees nowadays. Attract just because there's so many. You apply now compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like for a police officer, for example, there used to be over 100 people who would apply for a police officer position. Today, it's like 5 to 10. I mean, it's very different. And that's for a lot of our positions. So that's where we want to have benefits that are proactive, that can help out on that recruitment end. And a lot of people are willing to, after 2-3 years, go to another place and keep it fresh for a variety of different reasons. So that's where we want to also have benefits that help our retention. And thankfully, we've been pretty good, but that's something that we always want to be proactively reviewing. We still have the old health department space, which we want to turn into a public meeting room space and storage for some of those user groups listed there. So that will be something that we'll oversee in the next year and start utilizing over the next 3 to 5 years. Our staff at Village Hall have been awesome, and especially Karen, Derek, and I always, we sit down and evaluate if there's different ways that we can maximize the usage. Even though City Water has done a tremendous job with, some of the utility billing operations, it's something that other municipalities have their front desk staff do. So I think for us, it's measuring is there the capacity to do that, and if so, do we have the expertise that we feel long-term would be adequate there? I love the saying, if it's not fixed, don't break it, but we're also trying to always search for ways to save dollars. So that will be something that we'll evaluate over the next year or so and kind of make that determination if that could be done or not. Jennifer Schlitt, who's been our admin assistant, has been wonderful. She has an interest in clerk and elections, and we've been having her go to the Clerk Institute with UW Green Bay, and she just completed her second of 3 years. We're getting her trained to serve as the deputy clerk. Right now, technically Derek is the deputy clerk, but
Hearing the smile.
yeah, 'cause, Derek is always happy to help, but that's where someone in like Jen's role would be probably a better help in that role. So that's a long-term plan that we have that will probably be executed actually more short-term, sooner rather than later, because she's been excelling. The farmer's market, so that Carrie Hoy and Deb, you could probably speak to this because I know you're on the farmer's market committee, but she's been doing a wonderful job with the farmer's market, and she's really taken it to a whole new level. We have a long waiting list of vendors who want to participate. We have a number of people who are coming. So it's really evaluating like the location that we have now. Is that the location we want long-term? Or if we continue to build up, are we going to start having some parking issues competing with the pond? Because I don't know if it's the weather or whatnot, but the pond is from a participation perspective this year, I think has been trending up compared to previous years too. So that's where we just want to be constantly evaluating that and just determining like, is there a spot long-term the farmer's market could go? Similar to West Allis, is there an opportunity for some kind of sponsored donor to, fund a pavilion where the farmer's market could happen, rain or shine, stuff like that we talk about. And so that's one of the things, especially as we look at new development opportunities, is there a way to incorporate it? I know that was a vision for GreenLink. I don't think the space at Community Square provided enough parking and space for the vendors to be, but if there was a space that provided more room, that might be a benefit for the farmer's market. And then lastly, we do the budget the old fashioned way. It works, but it takes a little bit more time through Excel. There's a lot of different electronic softwares that allows the budgeting process to be a little swifter for staff. So that's something that Derek has been asking for. We haven't been able to work it in the budget yet, but someday that's something that we would hope to do. So those are kind of our top 10 things. As we look at the next few years, those are the things that we're evaluating on or reflecting on. Karen, do you have anything else to add at all?
I do not.
Otherwise, any questions, comments? Happy to answer.
I guess I have a comment. When I think about Brown View Road, I think about the vacancy we have right next to Walmart. I mean, that'll be a great place for the farm market to go to. I think the owner probably should just donate at least the parking lot for the farmers market to operate, because that will help his business potentially get help fill those vacancies.
Okay, thanks.
You want to talk to me?
What's that? Shop it? Yeah.
Oh, you can talk to one. No, well.
The vacant lot next to Walmart.
What is big?
By the mall, the strip mall, there's nothing that's there.
Okay, the strip mall.
Right.
The only thing, I mean, I'm happy with any ideas. If you remember, it originally was at the marketplace in that parking lot, which was vacant. And we did, if you remember, we did a community survey that specifically asked about the farmer's market. And that location did not score well as others because people didn't see an empty parking lot as a vibrant location. What scored better was over here at the pond because it was seen as a more vibrant location. So I don't know if the same sentiment would feel about that lot next to Walmart if we were to ask the community that, but that's just one thing that as I reflect on that, the marketplace did not score well for that reason. So.
Yeah, I was just saying that there's a potential to help redevelop that site. I mean, it could be one component for larger development.
As we talk about, First Citizens will be coming up, and that's something that we've also talked with, the development groups with at that location. And, you know, Woodsonia has purchased the US Bank building, so that's one thing that they're not ready yet to talk about ideas for that because they're trying to finalize Riverside Landing, but once they do, they'll shift their attention to that. So all that, you know, with those development opportunities, I think that's where we can talk about it as an idea of incorporating the farmers market into that.
What about FIS? I mean, they're at a large part.
So FIS over the last year have been having a lot of their employees return to work. So I can tell you in the last year, that parking lot has gone from about 50% full to about 80 to 90% full. So at that point in time, they're happy to provide a little space for excess parking, but they would not want the farmers market activities to go there just because it's so full. And security is a big thing for them just because of the amount of servers that they have in that space. So they would really want to be careful of the people who are spending long amount of time on their parking lot.
Trustee Johnson.
Related to the health department, that space, you just don't feel like if you find somebody to move into that space, you'd rather.
The problem is finding a public agency who would be a good partner kind of with the village. It could be a private too. It doesn't have to be public, but rent wise, we would be looking for that space about $10,000 for the year, maybe give them a discount of $6,000 to $7,000. So we've done multiple announcements through our village communications and we just haven't gotten any bites at all. So, you know, one of the things we feel is if we still turn it into like a community room, if we ever had the need of a group that want to use it, we could easily pivot back because we still have the control over the space. I'm just trying to think of a temporary solution that we could still utilize. I think the one thing that's important to note is we've partnered with the school district a lot, where the school district loves utilizing our committee room spaces. So, and they've used it for interviews and things like that. But that's where for like as board members, if you have any meetings and want to have it here at the hall, like that's where we can open that up a little bit. We have user, you know, probably every few months, we have a few user groups who want to, you know, inquire about using the spaces too. So I think it could be utilized. We'll always explore the rent option though. Even though if the committee room is there, I don't think it takes that away. It's just no one has expressed an interest.
Other questions or comments? Just know that this is out there, you have it. You may think of something later, you can always come back and talk to Tyler staff. There's no motion or anything tonight, it's just presentation.
And later this year, we'll still have community services. So that will be like economic development, community development, building inspection. So Nate will do that one. And then Danny will do parks and recreation. So those two are still coming before the end of the year.
All right, with that, there's no further items on our agenda, so I move adjournment at 7:03 p.m. Have a good night and week.
The only announcement I'll mention to the board is